Hey everyone, this is Marcia Hall, INE Executive Director. I am really excited to be taking Jen Howe's place today again. She is our education chair and she couldn't be with us, but I get the privilege of introducing these four wonderful ladies here. Jill Gilliland, Ryan Jordan, Ruka Curate, and Linda, I'm going to totally mess that up, and I even just heard you say it. Jill will introduce you in a little bit. But I am so excited to hear all about this. These ladies have so much experience, and I'm not going to talk anymore. I am just going to pass it over to Jill and let her introduce everybody and give you all of the details for today.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Marcia. Thank you all for joining. And for those of you who are going to watch it later because you weren't actually able to join, but are watching this video, thank you for joining. This is being recorded. And hopefully we'll get Ruka back in 1 second, but we have a great group here. So we're going to be talking about agency nuts and bolts. We're going to provide you the insights and experiences, mostly in the form of great stories and examples of experience from these really strong agency owners. So Ryan Jordan, raise your hand, is with Educated Nannies. Ruka Curate is with Tiny Treasure Nanny Agency, and Lydia Thibodeau is with Somet Nannies. And then I'm Jill Gilliland. I am with HPX Leaders, and I'm a business growth coach. All right, we're going to jump right in. So today we're going to talk about how to get your business set up. And for those of you who already have a business, stay with us because there's a lot of information on growing your business, not only starting your business, but how you can work to grow your business. So we're going to do business setup basics. We're going to talk about financials, de-stress, take deep breaths. It's okay. We know finances can be very stressful, but it's also the key to success in your business. Talk about marketing basics, recruitment, the bread and butter to getting your business off the ground, working with families, and using consultants. So let's start with the business setup basics. So we know you need to be a legal entity. You have to register your business. Can anyone from the panel just kind of walk us through what that was like and what you know about it?
I'm happy to start here. So my business started in New York City, even though we place families nationwide. But a lot of the cities and states that I wanted to work in, I had to register my business or get the licensing as an employment. Like, for example, in New York City, you need an employment agency license or permit in order to place candidates. The same can be said about Massachusetts. Chicago is another state that requires that. DC is another one. And it really, really depends on your municipality and your local government, but just check to make sure that you do have that, because if you don't, you can be fined. So after you start your business, you've made sure you certified it with the state, just look at your local, county and city to make sure that you don't have or need a business license in order to run a referral or a employment agency.
Wonderful. And that is the most interesting thing. Sorry, I used to have a recruiting business, but I never thought of nanny agencies as employment agencies. So I've even learned a lot talking to you all, but that's exactly the business I'm familiar with. So Ryan, what were you going to share?
I was just going to piggyback on that, saying that in California, it's a little bit different. You have to have a surety bond or a bond for your agency that's renewed every 2 years. So I would say stay on top of that for sure.
Absolutely. Thank you. And by the way, I forgot to mention, we have resource link that Marcia is going to put in the chat to a whole bunch of different resources that these agency owners have shared with you or we found in other places. And if you use the Google link, it will continue to grow and be developed to help find some of these resources. So for contracts, how did you guys get a contract? Did you go to the lawyer? What's really important to see in a contract?
So I'll chime in on this. So one of the things I will say, even going back to when you're applying for an employment license, most of these, like Massachusetts wants to see the contract that you're going to show the families and the contract that you're going to show the nannies. So you need this done before you can even apply. So I would say speak to a lawyer. If you're a lawyer or have someone in the family, have someone draft a work agreement. That's a contract you need. An employment agency agreement, meaning an agreement that you are going to show your client that stipulates your fees, your schedule, any type of refund, whatever your policy is, it needs to be included. And with the nannies, showing you don't have to pay to work with you as a nanny agency. That's really, really important for the nannies these days. What your terms and conditions are, what's important in the legal contract about what they need to do in order to work with you. These things actually need to be done even before you apply for your business licenses.
Okay. Anybody want to add anything?
Ryan, go ahead.
Okay, and then you go next. I just want to say, make sure that even though you're getting an agreement for your agency, that you're reading over it and you understand it, because you will get questions and you will get pushback from clients. So you want to not only get the agreement, but you want to go through it with your attorney or any legal advisor and make sure that you understand all of the terms and conditions, because there may be verbiage in there that you're unfamiliar with. At least I know I was when I first launched my agency. So it was one of the first things I did was go through it with a fine-tooth comb and say, what does this mean? Does this actually mean that? Who is this protecting? What do you want to think about when you're reading that over? And then likewise with your employment agreement with your nanny, that you have between you and your agency and your NDA. I mean, one of the biggest questions is like, wait, this goes down to me, my heirs, my kids, like forever and never and ever. So you want to ask all of those questions so that you're privy to the information, you sound educated while you're trying to, enter an agreement with somebody else. So make sure that you ask those great questions. And then the biggest thing is laws change every year. I mean, I know Ruka just stated in all these states we're employment agencies, but I am telling you right now, there are big changes right now. We can be considered consultants because we're all online now. So all of those things that needed to apply before, they're changing right now because I'm going through this nationwide and I can actually be considered a consultant. I don't need to have an office in certain locations anymore because everything's over Zoom. So just really take your time to go through and reach out to those proper legal people so that they can guide you, because laws change every year and you want to have the most up-to-date contract.
Thank you. Lydia?
I don't want to belabor the point because I feel like Ruka and Ryan covered it really well, but it's such an important document to have. It's something that's going to come back at you time and time again, as Ryan mentioned, when clients ask questions or if a placement doesn't go well. It's one of those documents that you really, really want to take your time with and make sure you get right. And as Ryan outlined, if you don't understand it, get legal counsel to make sure that you do. And regardless, get legal counsel to look it over from start to finish to begin with. It is something that will probably be evolving as you go through your years as an agency. There's certain language that we've added, certain language we've taken away through the years, but it's one of the most critical pieces of documentation that you have as an agency.
Thank you. And we did skip over business liability insurance. I was going to share that is absolutely critical, and the amount that you get should be enough to protect almost your entire assets as a personal entity. Not that they're supposed to be able to get at your personal finances, but the legal system can do a lot of things. And I was actually sued in my business. We settled, no one won. It was wrong, but it was very, very expensive. And I found out in the fine print that actually what I was being sued for wasn't even covered, although you could tell the insurance company felt some responsibility because they actually paid for all or a big portion of my legal fees. But getting business liability insurance, so if you have umbrella insurance personally, that does not generally cover a business. So you need to make sure it's business liability insurance. Anything anyone wants to add to that?
Also, because we're mainly online, you want cyber insurance, you want because we work with children, depending on what you are, you want sexual abuse insurance, you want as much insurance as humanly possible that you can afford. It's almost more important for you to have insurance than for you to have a payroll system. Meaning you can do that stuff on Excel, just pay for the things that are very important in order for your business to not go under. And this goes right back to business structures and legal entities. If you can, do not start this as a sole proprietor, like start as an LLC or as a corp or an S corp. You want to give yourself some protection legally, and you want to protect your assets outside of your business.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Ryan?
I have so much to say on this. Business and liability insurance is number one. I know there's some agencies like, I don't need it. I'm not worried. Like my contracts cover me. Guess what? I was sued and I said, you know what? Your business is a hobby until you get sued. That's when you know you're dealing with big wigs and people who are coming after your insurance. And I wasn't at fault. And the judge was like, why are you here? But it doesn't matter. Once you get into the legal system and someone says they want to sue you, your insurance attorneys take over. And the reality is it costs more to fight it, even though you're right. I'm such an ethical do-gooder. Like, I know I'm right. I didn't do anything wrong. My contract says I didn't do anything wrong. It was actually a sexual harassment case. I had nothing to do with it. And, it can happen. And everyone had clear background checks and all of those things, but it can happen. And basically what I heard from the judge and the insurance attorneys is it's going to take 2 years. The courts are backed up for 2 years. It'll cost millions of dollars to fight this. So we're just going to settle for $50,000 and you're going to pay your $1,000 deductible. And I was almost like, no, I'm going to fight this because I know I'm going to win. And they're like, we don't care, Ryan. We don't want to go through this for the next 2 years. So that's what it comes down to. And I learned a lot about the system. And if I didn't have insurance, it would have cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars. Instead, it cost me $1,000. And it could happen again. And it's happened to the best of us. I mean, I've talked to so many agency owners who are like, yeah, I was sued. It's very hush hush, but a lot of people this happens to. And same with cyber. I talked to my cyber guy and he's like, 5 agencies in the last 2 months have been sued and they didn't have cyber insurance. So instead of making it a hush hush thing, cover your tush, get that insurance, put $15,000 aside each year and know that 2 placements and you got your insurance covered, and just do it, because you never know when it's going to happen to you. And there's too many people working too hard in this industry to be taken down by a false accusation.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that, Ryan. When I was in a business class, the number one thing that the professor started with is, are you in business? Then you will have a lawsuit. Like that's just having a business, you will have a lawsuit, and you're better off approaching it from that mentality and protecting yourself, as Ryan said. So thank you very much.
One more thing, Jill, I just want to add really quickly is that we're all online and we all have websites. Make sure they are ADA compliant. There are people that are looking for agencies that are not and suing them and winning. And there are people who are looking for now, you have to give permission to be on the website because you're collecting data. Make sure you also have that. I have a tech guru who advises me on these things, because there are people that are specifically searching for, businesses that don't have this, and they're going to win every time if you don't.
Absolutely. And that even gets to simple things like images. I would never allow a single image anywhere in my material that I didn't know was absolutely free or paid for. And as a matter of fact, free is never free. I almost always pay for it, unless you use a site like Pexel or something that gives you criteria for using their images. But that's another area where I got at least 2 letters, random, bogus, but coming after me for images on my site. So, yep.
Well, and if you have an image, make sure you have that alt text on there as well.
Yeah.
Right. That's right. That's for sure.
I mean, with all said, another thing that I feel like if you can is just having a lawyer on retainer, and they're not that expensive. People have this idea that you're giving your lawyer tens of $1,000s a year. It's just a contract that's like, I am engaged with you and I can contact you when I need to. Because when you get the letter from a client that's in their feelings, you just have your lawyer handle it. I just have Emily handle everything. Like, hey, I got a letter, and she's on top of it, and it's worth every penny.
Absolutely. Thank you. All right, that is a big topic and really important. So thank you for pushing that point home, you all. Business name, again, you're probably all in business, but it's just important to be intentional about everything you do. I just did a little search just to give us an idea. So if you named your business Nanny Agency, there's about 13.5 million other sites that are going to come up. If you named it Nanny Agency San Diego, there's actually 14 million, which I don't know where the extra comes in, but that doesn't get you any better. A lot of times when you put your name with one more word, then you narrow down, call it your competition, the number of other names that are showing up. But when I put in the name Trusted Nanny Agency, there was only 1.43 million. So to me, that is a pretty interesting way to say, how am I going to name my agency in such a way that it shows value, that it's easily searchable, but there isn't so much competition that as I'm doing my search engine optimization, I don't come to the top. And then you want to check at the state to see if that name is already being used, whatever state you want to register your company in. And then it's like Ruka said, it's important to become an LLC or an S Corp. There's information in our resources, and I'm going to keep going because we have so much information here. But let's talk a little bit about financials. So financials can be scary. Financials can make people have like a visceral response. But they're also the key and most important thing in your business. So as you think about your financials, do you know what your priorities are? Is it to make a profit? Is it to take income? Do you think of those two differently? Your profit is the money you want to reinvest in your business for growth, to cover slow months, to grow, to maybe initially hire someone that then you move over to your expense category. Maybe you're eventually going to buy another business. And then paying yourself income is very, very intentional. I am going to make X amount of dollars. And so that is coming off the money I make. And there's a book called Profit First. They have a lot of good ideas. And the idea is you have revenue, then you take off your allocation to profit, then you subtract how much you're going to make, and the rest is what you can use to cover your expenses. And those expenses are somewhat arbitrary. Taxes are not. You have to set aside how much you need to pay taxes and almost put it in a separate account. And to set up your financials, you need a separate bank account. So I have a few more thoughts on financials, but I'm going to pause there. Can anyone share any thoughts on this, or how you manage your financials and what helps you the most?
I would definitely say paying yourself is very important. We tend to forget to do so, especially because your business is kind of your baby and you just want to see it grow. And you're like, oh my God, let me just take what I have, get rid of taxes, reinvest. You're not going to be happy. You're going to feel like you're stretched because at the end of the day, you have to take care of you to take care of your business. So if you can read Profit First, I think it's a great book. And think about yourself in this. Like, don't give yourself too much. If you made your first year $100,000, it makes no sense to give yourself 70, but like shave off that 10, 20% of your income or of your revenue as soon as possible. And then you can reallocate later on, but at least pay yourself first.
Lydia?
Obviously, this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart. I think for new agency owners, this can be a really intimidating topic and something that you don't want to look at. But I think we can all agree it's extremely important, and it typically will define whether a business makes it or fails. For me, I think that this can be as complex or as simple as you want to make it. Starting with understanding what expenses you have and which of those are fixed and which of those are variable, and what you want to allocate towards reinvesting back in your business, whether that's hiring an employee or marketing, and going from there. But keeping in mind, at the end of the day, we are all here to make a profit. So you may be doing something that you absolutely love, and I think we can all say that is the case. But at the end of the day, you still have to make sure it's a viable business and something that can continue for the long run. So making sure you're set up for success there, or getting help from somebody else that is really financially literate is also really, really helpful. And just being comfortable educating yourself and learning about that as soon as possible will really help your business thrive.
Absolutely. So how did you so we have expenses, we have profit, but the top line is revenue. How did you go about deciding your pricing model, and did it change?
I can take this one. I agree with Lydia. I am super passionate about finances and empowering women to talk about financial means. It's exciting. When I first opened, one of the first conversations I had was with Lydia, because she does have that financial background. And I wanted to make sure I was aligned with what I should be thinking and how I should be paying myself and what kind of income I should have as an agency and what percentages. So I think it's really important, and it's super basic. You can start with an Excel spreadsheet and just log all of your revenue, and then you can log all of your expenses and have one bank account and one credit card that's connected, and you can start there. That's a basic way to start. There's apps, and now I have a bookkeeper, but for newer agencies, if you just have a Google sheet or an Excel spreadsheet, you can start there. And I think that's just really important to know where the money is going and coming. Some people will just say, oh, as long as I can pay my bills, I'm happy. That's great. Then you have a hobby. You don't have a small business. So I think it's important to really look at your financials and map out the year and set some great goals for yourself, because that's important to move in the direction that you want to move in. And then also pay yourself. Again, I concur that Profit First is a great, book and a great practice. And I think it's really helpful to feel valued as a business owner to pay yourself. And there'll be months that you can't pay yourself. Like, I'm sure a lot of us, paid ourselves less or not at all during the pandemic. But I think it's really important that you do pay yourself, because your work matters.
Absolutely.
Another thing I would definitely say about price point is that I started in New York, so I really wanted to match my competitors. I didn't want to be too far below my competitors. Because my thought process has always been, if you're cheaper than everyone else, something's wrong. That's just how I shop. So if I go to a store and there's a bagel and there's one for $5 and all the other bagels are 10, I'm not going to buy the $5 bagel. I'm going to think something's wrong with it and it's going to be stale tomorrow. But that's just my mindset. So I didn't price myself low, even as a new agency. When I started, I came in and I was just like, they're 15%, I'm 15%. And I just left it at that until I was able to grow. Everyone does it differently, but I think it allowed me, when those clients would come in, to slowly make money and grow. And I think that's one of the best decisions I did. I didn't undercut the market because I was trying to get a lot of clients, because I don't think it works. Everyone is different, but for me, I don't think it would have worked.
Thank you.
I had a strategy for that. I was told from, I think it was Susan, Jill, or somebody in my mastermind years ago that said, that is really a business guru, said, you want to always set 3 prices. So I originally started 15, 18, 20%. And that was the, once I started researching, that was the LA market. That's what it was. But as I grew, and the idea behind that is that somebody's not going to choose the cheapest. And they're oftentimes not going to choose the most expensive. So you set your business model that there's a middle price point and offer different things. So like 15%, you get this background check, and 18% you get the accelerated, and then the 20% you get all the bells and whistles and a babysitting membership. And to me, I had that business model for 5 years. I'm going into year 10. And for me, I was like, wait a second. I had a question a lot, like, how come everyone shouldn't get all the bells and whistles background check? This is a kid. Like, what? How come someone shouldn't get all of this? So I just changed to 20%. And that's what it has been for it was 18% for 3 years after that. And then it was 20%, because I believe everyone should get all the bells and whistles, and the clientele that I want to attract for the nannies that, need the income that they need to live is a higher price point. So I realized with my company and my business model, that was the best way to move forward. And it was less confusing. For 20%, you get all of me, all of my team, all of the best of the best, and you get the best nanny, and that's it. Let's go.
Thank you. Absolutely. I love that. Lydia, you have a progressive story too. Do you mind sharing?
Yeah, so I took a different approach from Ruka, and I definitely wish I would have taken her approach. I started in Chicago. Prices are just lower there for nanny agencies, or they certainly were, when I started 8 years ago. I think they still are. So I did a market SWOT analysis, and I said, okay, all my competitors are, flat rate, and they're all like right here. And so I just stuck right there. The other thing I did is, instead of charging an upfront fee for families to work with us, I just said, we're free, because, take a chance on us. So we're not going to charge you a registration fee. It's a low commitment to work with me. I am a new agency, but I actually undervalued myself in a lot of ways. And I stayed there for a long time. Nanny agencies in Chicago would raise their rates by $100, $200, $300 every year. So yes, you are seeing an increase in your overall revenue, but it's so little each year. And we were just playing a volume game. I think in our heyday, we placed 127 nannies in 1 year, but our average fee was, I think, $2,000.
Oh my gosh.
It was, I wish I was joking. Because our part-time fee was $780 to start. Our full-time fee was $1,500, and we just slowly moved up. So the year we did the most volume, I think I think the average was 2,000. And so nobody was doing percent-based in Chicago, literally nobody. And so I knew other people were doing it, but I just felt really nervous. I felt like, I don't know if the market is going to tolerate this, particularly in Chicago. They do seem more price sensitive than LA, than New York, than Boston. Like, I didn't know if they do it. Every agency owner would say that this is their baby. I wasn't ready for my baby to go away if it didn't work out. I wasn't ready to have to close, and I was too scared to make that jump. I wish I would have done it sooner. I would say, I'm jumping ahead to regrets. That would be one of mine. Was I stuck with flat rate, and I stuck with a price that was way, way too low. And when I really got the kick in the butt, it was when I had a family in Lincoln Park in Chicago, which is a great neighborhood, offer their nanny $85,000 plus benefits. And my fee on that was $3,000. And I just started, and this was not that long ago. I mean, we're talking probably 4 years ago. It wasn't that long ago.
My heart.
And so, yeah. And so it was one of those times where I'm like, what am I doing? And it took going to the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses program to say, like, hey, your client can actually afford a lot more, and the right clients will stick with you, and you don't need to play a volume game. You don't need to be tearing your hair out, having 50 families on your spreadsheet at any given time, placing 100 plus nannies a year at $2,000 a pop. Like, half these people are just not your client. So I've learned, yeah. Well, now we're at 20%. I cannot be happier. We do not play a volume game anymore. And I'm thankful for that too, because my life has changed so much with 2 young children. I can't compete in that arena anymore. But we work with just much, much better clients, and we work with better candidates, and we have a manageable volume at a price point that finally feels really right, and like we're being rewarded for the hard work that my team puts in.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Sharing those stories are incredible, because every business goes through it in some fashion. So just helping us understand some of the challenges and being vulnerable is incredibly valuable. I really appreciate that. I'm going to go through these slides really quickly. It's just the visual. And I picked 500 in revenue and 900 in revenue, just as points. You could be at 100, you could be at 150, 200. Just want to see when you think about picking percentages. So say your profit's 25%, say you pull off taxes of 30%, say you're going to pay yourself 15%. You have 30%, 150,000 on 500,000 left for your expenses. Are you going to spend it all? Hopefully not. Maybe not. Maybe you will. Maybe that's perfect. Maybe that's what it takes to earn the 500, but you're being intentional and you know what this looks like. So let's say you want to grow to 900 and you're trying to decide, should I increase my expenses to 40%? Should I decrease my comp to 10%? I'm still going to make more, but I'm decreasing the percent. Should I decrease my profit? So that expense has to come from somewhere. It could come from your profit. It could come from your comp. It's not coming from your taxes. Or can you keep the percent the same and grow to 90,000? So let's say you had this model and you had a 125,000 for 3 years. Every year you took a profit of 125,000. Now you want to grow. You're going to hire someone to grow. You don't have to immediately add it to your expenses. You could take it from your profit for the first year with the idea that you would move it to your expenses the next year, because at that point you would expect, or the year or two, that person would then have paid for themselves because of the new revenue they were driving to your company. But if you can start to think that way, or think about how you're going to grow, it can help a lot. Does this bring up any thoughts or comments from anyone?
It does a lot. You know, a lot of people are always searching for that revenue number. Even myself, I'm like, I have this revenue goal. And I'm like, I have this net profit goal. Because revenue really doesn't matter. I mean, my net profit, I'm very conservative. I'm a saver. You know, when I consult with people, like, you could hire someone else for $100,000 and be okay. But at the bottom line is, like, I like seeing my net profit a solid number of like 4 to 6 months I could operate on, you know. And some people keep that low. They're like, oh, I just need to have a bottom number, and their overhead might be lower, right? A lot of us don't have offices anymore. A lot of people have 1 or 2 employees. I have 5 now, so it's different. My mindset is very different. So I think looking at your revenue number is a great goal getter kind of thing, but really looking at what you want your net profit to be, that's the goal.
I love that. So what I heard Ryan say is, if she were growing, she's not growing down here. She's growing up here. She's going to grow. Her goal is to get from 125 net profit. Let's pretend that would carry her 3 months, to a net profit of 225. So it carries her 4 months or 5 months at a minimum. She's reducing the risk of her business, and she's increasing her overall value of her business. And then most likely a lot of times you might make choices to say, how much can I increase my revenue without adding people? What can I do to improve my processes or my marketing or whatever without maybe hiring 1 more person? It just depends. There's a lot of variability in how you approach it, but there's a lot of opportunity. Does anybody have any other thoughts on this one?
I mean, I think that's right. For me, one of the things I will say is, when you're a business owner, check your bank account every single day. See what money goes out, what money that comes in, so that you're aware, because you'd be surprised how often or how easy it is for money to fly out on your expenses that you weren't thinking about, right? And cutting costs. I definitely do play with our budget a lot, not from our employees, but just marketing budget, because if I want to see that profit number look better, you have to spend a little bit less on marketing. You have to spend a little bit less on your overhead. If you're not comfortable doing that, or if your business can't grow without you doing that, you're not going to see the numbers that you want. So just be mindful of that, especially when you first start and you're like, hey, I got a loan for $100,000. And then you can look at this chart. Don't go out there and spend 30% on marketing, especially when you don't know what you're doing. You don't know. There's so many ways to market in our industry without spending a penny, right? Some of us have to do more than others, but if you can save money and grow so that that profit margin looks bigger, do so.
Great. Thank you. And this is just drilling down one more level. And we don't have to spend much time here, but to know what it makes up your expenses. What percent of money, this is just expenses, that 30% or whatever you allocate to expenses, how much are you willing to pay contractors, professional services? Background checks is probably maybe standard. How much you want to spend on marketing? Insurance, you probably can't impact much. CRM or your technology, payroll, paying people. And what do you want this breakdown to look like? And at the end of the day, what is going to make more revenue? What do you need just to open the doors, and what will actually increase your revenue? Ryan, I kind of felt like you had a thought on that.
I'm just looking at your payroll expenses. I've been taught that your payroll should never be more than 30% of your revenue.
Yeah, I felt like that was
25, 30%. So I'm looking at this at 63.6%. I'm like, I don't know. I didn't start a business with a loan. I started my business with $5,000 in savings, and then it just exploded from there. So for me, I'm a lot more conservative than this business model right here. 63% for me. I better than triple my revenue if I'm going to invest this much in employees, but I'm also very much in and out of the day-to-day, and that'll be one of my regrets I talk about. But for me, this seems very high.
I agree.
Thank you. I've just created a model with not great data, so I appreciate you commenting on that. It's for viewing purposes only, but what's the percent you try and keep payroll at?
I try to keep it between 25 and 30% of my revenue.
So see, this is different because the chart was based on the 30%. So this is actually like 15%. If we're looking, if we say 23, so this is about.
You're right.
This is the number actually does come off to under 30%. Because she took that large, she took that like 135. I mean,
but this says 63.6%.
Of the green, of the 30%.
Yeah. So
oh God, okay. I'm like, I can't even see these numbers. They're so tiny. I'm like, wait.
Sorry.
I apologize then.
No, it's cool. So
thank you for clarifying, because
I would say your SaaS is a little low though. Your software as because most of us, especially online, we use a lot of software. At least for me, especially, I know there's a lot of people in our industry that use Engine Hire. There's a lot of them that use City, and there's a lot of software that we actually use to run Typeform, Airtable, and that can probably create a bigger percentage in that part, almost more than marketing. I think for us, our CRM is way more important than marketing, just so we can organize our team.
Yeah. And those are also connected, right? Your CRM may be what's important to drive your marketing, email, collecting leads. So they're interconnected. But absolutely. So that's good to know. So your SaaS, your investment in technology, each of you feels probably is a much larger chunk of your expenses. So, all right. So, all right, let's jump ahead so marketing basics. There's a few things that I think are really important. Deciding pricing business model will partly determine who you are, what kind of agency you are, who your families are, who your nannies are. Deciding who you are, then you can say a perfect family would look like this. a perfect nanny would look like this. And those are your personas. Those are the people that you're marketing to, so that you're actually willing to walk away from the people that don't fit your personas. Now, maybe that's less true with the families and more true with the nannies. You know, you wouldn't take a nanny who wasn't qualified according to XYZ, or had a bad background check, or whatever your criteria is. But that will help you understand the value of your marketing dollars. So you may get 100 nannies apply to your site, but if only one of them matches your persona, is even closely qualified for the types of families you work with, then that channel is maybe not that great. Whereas if you have another place where you only get 2 nannies from, but each of them are perfectly aligned with the kind of nannies that you need, that may be an incredibly valuable place to find nannies. So I just kind of want to put the idea of who you are, knowing who you are, and knowing who you are actually helps you create content too. So you can write about yourself in the same way, you brand yourself in the same way, you create the content that you serve up to people about yourself and for them based on who you are and the kind of value you provide. So that leads to what makes you stand out. Is it quality? Is it being trusted? Do you have a niche, unique services, things like that? Once you know those 2 things, then you search for those people, the families or the nannies, where they hang out. Is it online? Is it in a public place? Is it a conversation you want to have? Do you want to set up a meeting at the library for these families, or a meeting at a high-end, like boutique-y kind of place to tell these families about nanny agencies? Do you want to only work with them to find them through a network, or are they on social groups? So I'm going to pause there for a minute. What is each of your experience around marketing, and what's worked well and what was a waste of time?
I will say that, like, your brand persona, who you are, is really important in this. I would say Ryan on this panel probably has one of the most, like, well-branded agencies, Educated Nannies. It doesn't get any better than that, right? Like with us, it's like Tiny Treasures. We're focused on developmentally focused nannies. But Ryan has like, even if we place we place a number of different type of candidates and private educators, but I know if I was a mom, I would probably look at Ryan's agency before I looked at my agency, because it just says Educated Nanny and she's branded and built herself around that. I myself am still trying to find not really our niche, because our whole thing, our clients are specific type of clients, our candidates are specific type of candidates, right? You need to be a career nanny. The type of client you need to be someone that can afford this amazing career nanny and treat them very well and pay them legally. And I think that could be kind of hard, at least for us. It's still something that I am building on and I'm learning.
Thank you. Ryan, she teed it up for you, dude.
Let's see. So I have to giggle about this a little bit, because I do believe that this was something I kind of fell into. So I wasn't thinking of branding when I started my agency, Ruka, and that's going to be super annoying for a lot of people to hear. But my nickname was the Educated Nanny by a mom. I was a college educated nanny with a background degree in education and child development. So that was my master's degree. And so she joked, I need another educated nanny. And that was the moment that hit me. The world needs educated nannies. But if you said 10 years ago, would you start a nanny agency? I mean, that would make me giggle, because I didn't have a business plan. And people are like, well, what was your business plan? I was like, me, myself, and I. Like, honestly, I took what I knew and the passion I have, and that was my dad's advice. He's like, find something you're passionate about and the rest will fall into place. Whether that's a vacuum, whether that's a man, whether that's a career. If you don't have passion, you don't have anything. And me, I was the educated nanny. So I just multiplied that. And then I learned the business later. And that's the honest to God truth. I fell into this. I different colors and aesthetics and themes. And yes, my website is beautiful and those things, but honestly, my brand was me for the longest time. And now I think my brand is evolving to be not me, right? Now it stands on its own. But because I was the educated nanny, I relied on that to build my brand. So it's a little bit of a different story. Now I completely understand branding and marketing, all those things. I'm launching my sister company on May 1st, but it was just the passion that drew me in.
I appreciate you sharing that. And that is, it makes a big difference. And the key that you said is a company that stand on its own, because ultimately, if we want potentially an exit strategy, if someone's going to buy our business, or then we need a business that's not us. We need a business that runs as a business. So the fact that none of you named it after yourselves is a good start. But you're looking for a business that it runs outside of who you are because you've created these processes. Lydia, what about you? Did anything about marketing?
We have never had to focus a ton on marketing, thankfully. We've been really our biggest growth strategy has just been word of mouth referrals, and that's worked really well. As we've increased our fee structure, we've had to change that a little bit, and certainly in the slower months, that's something we do spend a lot of time focusing on. Since late last year, we've been really focused on forming strategic relationships, and that's been really important to us with other industry professionals that have non-competing services and products. So, a client to them might be the same client to us that they would use in a different capacity. So we don't place overnight care for infants, NCSs, anything like that. And so we have partnered with a lot of NCSs and doulas and lactation consultants in the cities that we have the biggest presence in, who can refer us kind of as the next step after they've worked with a family. And that's been really helpful. And it's one of those things where, like, we're not taking a fee, we're not asking for a fee from them. It's just a goodwill partnership. We'll give you business where we can, and you give us business. And that's worked really well.
That's incredible. That is a great idea. Here's in a nutshell kind of what we're saying. I'm not going to dig into every aspect. I'm more than happy to share this presentation with people, but you define who you are. You get clarity on who you are and what your business is about. Then you know what your edge is. What is the thing that makes you stand apart? And Ruka, as you're looking for the language or exactly how you're positioning yourself, these two things are already super clear for you. And those are the things that will drive to what comes out in terms of your value proposition, your one line, your two line, your elevator statement. And then you can get to your personas. Who is your ideal nanny? Who are your ideal families? Then you can think about where they hang out. Then you build your content library. If it's what you say about yourself, if it's all word of mouth, if it's image, video, graphics, stories, what happens where you show up, resources for people. But you want that every single piece of content, wherever you put it, whether it's next door or Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or, in the parent magazine, what do you want people to do when they read it? What is the intent of that piece, and what can they do to call you and sign up, whether they're a nanny or whether they're family? And then you can push or pull. You can pull by putting it out there, putting it on social, ways for them to sign up, ways for them to contact you, ways for them to call you, even referral, that's probably a little more pull. Pull is you contact people where you see their resume. You connect with them on Facebook because you've noticed them, because, maybe referral is pull. You go out and ask for people to come to you. And then everything you want to do, you'd like to track. How many people came from your efforts? Because there's so many things you can do. You want to nail it down to the most important things that are going to benefit you. So how do you each decide how much you're going to spend on marketing and where you put it?
I think it depends on the month. So for example, for us, we're about to go into our busiest 2 quarters. So Q2 and Q3 are super busy for us. So we spend no money. We don't need to. The clients just naturally come where I may put a little Google ad out in October when we're going into Q4, just to see if we bring any clients in. But about 75% of my revenue comes in the Q2 and Q3.
Thank you.
I like to invest in SEO. That's something I've learned a lot more about. And now I have an expert on my team. So I am seeing a big difference in the last 3 months. And then I also love to invest in our team of nannies. So if there's professional development or there could be an INA membership, for me, it's giving back to the community that does so much for us. I mean, when you think about it, we wouldn't be who we are today without those people. So if I have an opportunity to gift books or education or a membership or a training day or something that comes up, that's where I like to spend marketing. I also like to give back to, you know, our company that we give to. Every time we place a nanny, we give money to inner city children and children who are going to go out in the world one day and make a difference. And so for me, that's where I want to spread my money in marketing. And then our referral program for our nannies. If you refer a friend, you know, we have $500 if they book a part-time or full-time placement. It's like, again, giving back to the people that have given so much to us. So for me, those are the marketing that I spend on. But again, I agree with Ruka. It ebbs and it flows from year to year. Sometimes I'm like, I'm really going to invest in, you know, $15,000 for a new website, or I'm going to invest $15,000 in SEO because I want to grow and I want my revenue to grow. And some people want to have a stable year. The year that I became a second-time parent, I was like, okay, I just want to survive, not thrive. Okay, if I can get through this year with 2 under 2, I am good to go and I feel great about my life. So I just need you to take a look, and honestly, comparison is the thief of joy. You want to do the best for each day. Don't compare the year before. Just look at where you're at and what you need for that year. And then you can do a comparative analysis of other agencies or the year before, but start small and just really look at what your needs are for that year and that time in your life.
Wonderful. Lydia, do you have some thoughts?
No, I really think they covered it, actually. I'd love to say something, but I really think it was covered. And Ryan, I really appreciate your comments at the end about kind of where you're at in your life. I had 2 under 2 in July, and I can totally relate. And I think, where you decide to put marketing money and the overall decisions that you make for your business are also a reflection of where you're at in your current life. And I appreciate her outlining that, because I do think in this industry, especially when we see each other at conferences, it can be so easy to compare and see someone and wish you were there, but you will be. But nobody got there from day 1. Nobody got there from day 2 or even year 2. It takes a while, and it does matter where you're at in your personal life as well to make sure you're set up for the success that you're looking forward to.
Thank you. So finding the best nanny, meaning that you've got a nanny in the door, how do you sort out who you want, who's going to match to your family? How do you track them? What kind of process have you built, or what's something that you really feel has worked for you?
This is a funny one because I'm always looking for someone amazing, and I have to shift, or our team has to shift daily on how to find these individuals. But I find that really amazing career nannies will go to agencies and will use a number of agencies to work with them, because they know, in a way, a lot of agencies attract high net worth, high profile clients, right? Most times we're attracting families who are like, I can do this myself, but I don't want to. And those are the families sometimes that the candidates want to, they want to work with. But like, we do use the job boards, we do use Indeed. I don't market a lot for our nannies. And a lot of the times, I think it's just because it really depends on the job. When you go to our job board, that brings in a lot of nannies. I think, if anything, if you have nothing else, have a job board on your website.
Oh, that's a great idea. And then once you get them in, say you have a nanny or 2 nannies or 10 nannies who've applied, how do you move them from an applicant to actually a match? How do you find the best match? What's your process? Is it interviewing? Do you have a qualifying? Is it your background checks? Is it keeping track of all the nannies' information? What helps you guys the most?
Definitely the questions, I would say, like when you bring a candidate in, when recruiters interview them, there's a series of questions that I'm pretty sure every agency has to kind of weed out the candidate that you want working with the clients that you have. We have questions where we weed out people, and I don't care how great your resume is, if the sole purpose of you being a nanny is compensation. I really don't like those type of nannies, and I don't care how amazing you are. I'm not going, like, sometimes you'll have 1 or 2 who will pass us. They know how to answer the questions, but to be a great nanny, especially one that's like developmentally focused and is focused on the well-being and enrichment of the child, those are the answers that I want during the interview. I'm going to ask you about your childcare philosophies. I'm going to ask you about your ideal family. I'm going to ask a lot of these questions in order for us to know that you want to actually work with children. Money comes later. We will help negotiate an amazing salary for you. Our full-time nannies now make anywhere between 80 to 160K. So we're going to do that part for you, but are you good enough to come in and actually genuinely want to work with children? So that's what we look for before you even get to the point where we're checking your references or your social media. I want to know that you're a good person, and the background check will of course solidify these answers, but at least having that basic conversation during the interview is important, at least for us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're looking for people that are knowledgeable, not know-it-alls, and there's a big difference.
Oh gosh.
So when somebody, I mean, my team, the way you treat my team matters to me. Sometimes nannies will come and be like, well, I've known Ryan for 10 years and she wouldn't make me redo my resume. If you talk like that to my staff, automatically I'm not working with you. The way you treat people matters to me, and every single person on my team is just as important, or not even more important than I am, because I couldn't do the great work that I do without my team. So it's from the start. If you just send an email with a resume and no verbiage, or not even a hello, like I'm not a mind reader, neither is my team. I think I'm open to people that have the experience. Yes, like 5 years of experience I want with children, but I'm also looking for people that are always wanting to learn and do better and know better and are pleasant to work with. And even, the toughest day of our teams is the day we have to call a nanny and tell them they didn't get the job. How do you process that? Because that's not our fault, and we know you need a job. Do you reek of desperation, or are you grateful for the opportunity and are you ready to keep going? Or can I give you a pep talk because you're feeling down? We're willing to do all of those things, but if you're not receptive or you're entitled, we can't do anything about that. And our clients don't want that in the home, and we definitely don't want that as a role model for those babies. The world is tough enough out there. We don't need that energy. So I'm looking for people that have the qualifications, that are pleasant to work with, that are passionate about children, obviously pass, the background checks, or at least have a great background check. And the references are everything.
Yep.
References are everything. If you tell me, oh, I've worked for 5 high-profile clients and you can't talk to them because I signed an NDA. Yes, I can. I also worked for 5 high-profile people, and they were always willing to chat about me as their nanny, or their household manager was, or their business manager. Somebody is. So that's not truthful. That's a limiting belief that you have, and you will start understanding that as you grow as a nanny, that you can ask for those references, and it doesn't matter who they are. They're going to speak about you, or somebody from their team will, or even just to verify employment. So it's good to ask those tricky questions.
Absolutely. Thank you. So we're not getting to working with families. You can outsource. I know some of you have used consultants, used coaches, used different people to help you from the outside. That's what I do in my business, but that can include a bookkeeper. It can include a marketing person. It can include a consultant. For the audience, Marsha's going to put a link to fill out an evaluation, but I'd like to ask one more question. What could each of you share about biggest mistake, biggest challenge, or whatever you've learned, or biggest success, whatever has sort of at the crux had a big impact you throughout your business development?
I have a hard cutoff in the next minute, so I'll go
Okay.
first. And I did pretty much share, but my biggest mistake was just undervaluing myself. I think I kept thinking that a client wouldn't pay more than X amount, and I was just, benchmarking against the other agencies in Chicago. So I didn't really value my true worth and what I was bringing to the table. And it took many, many years and a lot of positive people in my life to say, charge for the services you're really delivering. You guys know you're the best, charge like you're the best, and to step away from what everyone else was charging in Chicago. So my biggest mistake, but also the thing I'm most proud of, was stepping away from that and following what I know we deserve.
Thanks so much, Lydia.
Yeah, and thank you again for
Thank
letting
you.
me be on the panel today.
Thanks for joining us. Ryan?
Bye, Lydia. Thanks. I think that my biggest mistake and regret is not hiring people faster. I hired my first employee when I was in business for only 9 months, but it was somebody that I trusted. So it was an easy hire for me. But then after that, I think that has been my biggest downfall, is hiring employees, either hiring the wrong employee or not hiring enough employees, wanting to stay in the day-to-day, that control. It's very hard. And I talk to business owners about this all the time, is letting go of your baby. A lot of times this baby wants their independency. And so now I feel so empowered working on the business instead of in the business. And my biggest regret is not hiring my team sooner. They're amazing. And it gives me so much more freedom to do the things I actually love to do and want to do. So I would say that was my biggest regret. And that was my biggest win.
Wow.
The minute I hired my rock star, right now I'll name her Lisa, it's changed my life, and I love my team so much.
Thank you. Ruka?
I won't really call it a regret, but the one thing I will say is really important in our industry, and you take it for granted when you first start, is making friends or connections with other women, men in our industry, because no one, like the average person, doesn't understand what we do and how we do it. And it becomes really, really lonely. So I have to say, I don't know what I would do if it wasn't for like Kith and Kin and Shenandoah from Adventure Nannies and, Ryan. Like, I don't know what I would do without that, because when we have problems, it's like, guys, what am I going to do about this client? And it's just so amazing and so nice, because if I didn't meet them, especially as a woman of color, I was able to meet other agency owners that were women of color because I felt lonely in it. If I didn't have that, the last 4 years, it would have just became a depressing thing to do. It didn't matter how much money I was making. I felt really, really lonely. So I would say make connections and make friends as soon as possible.
Wow. What incredible advice. Thank you both for so much for your time. I can't tell you, I'm sure this is a valuable experience for everyone here. And we'll look forward to our next one in our next webinar. Marcia?
Thank you guys so much. I sat here just taking this all in. It's definitely outside of my realm in this industry, and I really enjoyed listening to all 4 of you brilliant women talk about your businesses and how you've gotten to where you are right now. I cannot thank you enough. So, and I am sure that is echoed by everybody that was able to be on the call and everybody that's going to listen to this later on. Really appreciate, and I hope that we get to hear from you guys again in the future. So
Absolutely.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, Ruka.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.